We're doing it. Hey friends, welcome to Charlie Darwin. My name is Leah and I have a handmade clothing business where I focus on having the most eco-friendly alternatives to fast fashion. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about how I come up with designs for my handmade clothing. I am a solopreneur, so I do not need to coordinate with anyone else when choosing my designs. It's just straight from my heart. And that's sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. But let's get into the, 5 steps that I typically take when I'm choosing what designs I want to make next. The first thing that I consider is, what do I need in my closet? So I look through all of my handmade items and my store-bought items, and I consider, what am I looking for, especially in the upcoming seasons, even just seasons of my life. Right now I'm in a PhD program, and so sometimes I need clothes that are both semi-professional, but also being comfortable for when I'm feeling a little bit lazy. So that's the kind of clothes that I look for on a day-to-day basis. But I also am a huge adventurer, so I love going on hikes, bike rides. I love being in the sun in the summer. I love being in the sun year round. And so it's really important to me that all of my clothing can live in both of these spaces. So something can exist in a semi-professional setting, and it also then, once it maybe gets a little bit more worn out, or even when it's still new, I can go ahead and wear it on a hike later, and it can be really versatile between different places. And I figure for my business, if I don't have it in my closet, then I know it's because I haven't made it for Charlie Darwin yet, and so I want to go ahead and make sure that it's available to my customers as well, because I know that they don't have it either. The second thing I think about is what's achievable. So there are 4 different constraints I have with what's achievable. One of them is, how much time do I have to design and create, let's say, the new collection that I'm putting out in the spring or the fall? And what season of life am I in right now? Do I have a lot of other things going on or not? And my second consideration is cost. So I think about, what can I achieve that is still affordable to make? I don't want any of my designs to become so ornate or so time intensive in labor that it's going to escalate the cost of the final product by an insane amount that no one can afford, and I'm losing customers in that way. I really like my clothing to be as accessible as possible to the people who want to be wearing it. The third thing that I consider is my own personal skill level. And so I have at times tried to bite off more than I can chew. And usually those designs get weeded out pretty quickly in the design stage. There's certain things I just have no desire at this point in time to really dive too far into. So right now in my collections, I don't sell any pants with zippers. One, because I think they freaking suck to sew, especially like a front fly. And secondly, because I don't really like hard objects on any of my clothing. So I avoid things like zippers. The fourth thing about it being achievable is it achievable with the fabric that I use? So I use 100% linen for almost every single one of my designs. I even use the exact same weight density of linen for all of my designs. And so I think strongly about, can this be achieved the way that will it look good in linen? Will it flow right? Will it drape right? Will it lay right? And sometimes I think that challenge is really exciting, actually. I love linen because it's a very eco-friendly fabric. It's made from plants and it biodegrades quicker than any other fabric, meaning that it's not leaving a huge trace on this earth in our landfills. So I choose linen time and time again. It's also so soft and so durable. But linen is not stretchy at all. for the most part. And so I have to be very considerate about when I'm making my designs. I can't do things that are too form-fitting because there's not going to be much give when someone puts it on their body. And I think having that constraint of using linen for everything actually really helps me creatively flourish of, ooh, I have this constraint, and how can I make it work? It's a challenge every single time I go to design something, and I love that challenge. I think it's really fun. All right, so that wraps up the 4 points of, is this achievable? And I'm next going to move on to the third thing I consider when making new designs, which is what sells best, or what blog posts are doing really well for me right now. Or alternatively, what are people emailing me and asking me about? Or when I send out surveys about what my customers want, I can ask them, what are you looking for in your wardrobe next season? So it took me a couple years. I'm about 2.5 years into my business at this point, and it took me a couple years to be able to see trends, like what is selling best. And once I was able to see that with some of my products that I have kept in my shop long enough, it has been really, really helpful for me in understanding what kind of shapes and silhouettes are other people looking for in plant-dyed linen. And what are my customers excited to see in future iterations? What kind of silhouettes do they think look good on their body? And also looking at what kind of reviews and feedback am I getting from people on my previous clothing that I'm selling. If someone repeatedly is telling me that a certain pair of pants are too baggy in the butt, then I'm not going to use that sewing pattern and adjust it for a future pattern. But if a top is a shirt is consistently getting fantastic reviews and people are telling me how it absolutely fits perfect every single time, then I definitely absolutely want to take that pattern and transform it into a new design and a new silhouette that's similar but a little bit different in the future. So the fourth thing that I consider when making new designs is, what do I actually want to improve my skills at, and what actually sounds exciting to me? So I love curating new ideas on Pinterest, new shapes of collars, new wrists, new pant silhouettes, new types of pockets and patchwork. And I love thinking about improving my skills and trying out little tiny new design elements and having just sort of one magical thing a part of each design. So I like simple designs, but for instance, on this collar, I added sort of a little fringe from the selvage edge into the collar, and that's sort of its magic point for me. The magic spot on the collar is that little fringe, and that's a design element that is the first time I tried it, and I absolutely love it. So I love adding in new skills and a little magic moment into every single piece that I create. So I have a Pinterest board where I curate new ideas, and I'll link to that below, where you can see my boards, especially my chill vibe clothing board is where I particularly like to keep a bunch of my new ideas. So the fifth thing that I consider when creating new designs is in one collection, what will look good together. So I typically put out around 2 to 3 new articles of clothing per collection, and I always want that photo shoot to be full top to bottom, definitely Charlie Darwin clothing, but also I want it all to match and be within the new collection. And so all often if I'm making a pair of pants, I consider what really cool top would look good with this, what kind of design. If my initial design is a dress, I don't really need to pair it with much, but I do want to make sure that it's at least in the same vibe as the pants. And you can check out my next video, which is going to be about how I choose the vibe of my collection and of my brand in general. And then finally, in the process of doing all of this design work and creative thinking, I'm doing some drawing on my iPad. I use the app Procreate, and I start off by sketching different iterations of what I might like to do. So for example, in a pair of pants, I might add it with knee patches and without knee patches, and with bows and with shorter length and a longer length. And I might consider colors at this stage as well to decide what kind of colors are going to pair well together for my initial photo shoot. So that's pretty much the design process from start to finish, and what I do every time I'm coming up with a new handmade clothing item. Now, this is typically the process I do for my business, but sometimes I also do makes for just myself to wear to a special event. And this is still the step-by-step process that I go through. When I'm making something just for myself, I probably don't think so much about what does my customer, what sells best on my website. I really emphasize, what do I need in my closet for my lifestyle? Does it need pockets, and can it tuck into pants, or do I not want it to? Do I personally look good in dresses that fall right above the knee? No. And so I take my personal needs into account a lot more when I'm just creating for myself. But I do love the added challenge of creating for my customers, and I think that we're not that different, me and my customers, so it's never too far off what I would want versus what my customer would want. So I hope this has been helpful, or I don't know how you stumbled across this video. I'm a very new YouTube channel, and I would really appreciate it as I grow. If you could like this if you could like this video, and then also subscribe so that you can see my new videos. I'm going to put together a whole series about my handmade clothing business, behind the scenes, the design process, the photography, different styling, some sewing tips. So if any of that interests you, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in future videos. All right, bye.